Okay, so this is Blunder through Blender 6 and really about better ways to put images in. So here's what is frustrating me. So I'm sure this is frustrating you too. So it's fine to put in backgrounds, right? The thing that's hard to put in is the images that overlay the background now. So the way that I'm going to overlay the background here, I want to put this image of this book called Evolved, and I want it to be small enough that I can work with it and move it around. And so I'm going to try to make this a meta strip. So go to strip and then go to make meta strip. And then having it as a meta strip, I can then add my transform, which is here. And I'm going to call this transform for meta strip. And here then change my scaling as we've done. Change my thing to alpha over, and then I can move this up and down. And that doesn't look like a book because I did uniform scaling. So it was better when it was book shaped, but so I wish that what it would do is let me make it a certain shape and then go to uniform scale and scale it, but it won't. It doesn't. So you'll have to adjust like this. And then find your positioning, right, when that comes up. And also add your fade in and fade out. And I don't know then what happens. I do know that when you do the strip, it only takes what you've created when you made the strip.
By low cost, low risk surrogate.
So that doesn't work very well. So forget the fade in and fade out. No, actually it is working.
Low cost, low risk.
But it's so when you want to lengthen it, then you'd have to go to tab and then grab it and make it bigger and then tab out of it, and then you can stretch it to that particular length.
Low cost, low risk surrogate experience.
Once again, the fades are all wrong for this. So let me get rid of the opacity key. That doesn't seem to work. Clear keyframes, and then you've got to make your opacity 1 for the whole thing because it gets rid of that. Okay. The question is, if I put another book in, can I just copy this meta strip? That's the point I'm getting at. So I'm going to have to do this all over again once I've set my sizes. So if I click this, yes, I can create another meta strip, and then I can come in here and hit tab to replace this with the other strip. So if I delete that and grab my other book, which would be, where is my other book? Here it is, Recursive Minds. Drop that into here. And I don't know what channel it is. It's supposed to be in the same as the channel of that one, but let's try it. All right. And then hit tab to go back in. So it didn't carry the transform. And if I shift D for that, it's tied to it. So ain't gonna happen. So you'd have to then again do the same thing, which is add an adjustment layer, an effect strip transform. Pick the one that you want to transform and then go and select the one that you want to do your modifiers from and copy and replace. But that didn't do it either, because the strip here, I don't know if Control C and then go over to here and hit Control V. Nope. It's not doing it. It should be alpha over, and it also should be that you change the position and the scaling the same way that you did the last one. You can copy over the scales there we go. And you can copy the value of the location position. But wouldn't it be nice if there was a way to simply copy all the positions right over, as there was with the modifiers? That's the next thing that we're going to have to investigate to make the workflow faster. So let me take a look at how to do that. So there's a better way to do this, obviously, and I've just looked it up. So I'm going to find another book that I want to bring in. So let me listen to what he's saying here.
Questions that focus on the problems, threats, and opportunities life might have thrown before our ancestors. Fictions are preparations for life and its surprises, they say. End quote, page 1.
So which book is that?
To what if provide low...
Look at our script. It's always good to keep the script handy. Fictions are preparations for life and its surprises. That is 110, and that would be of, this whole thing is on Dutton's book, Tubi and Cosmides, quoted in Dutton. So for this, preparations for life and its surprises, I can copy this. I want that. And I do want to put in here somewhere, and I'm going to add the text for that and call it quote Dutton, and then paste in the, let's see if it will, no, didn't do it. So I've got to go back. You really have to quote, pick it up bit by bit. So I'll take this piece and come in and use a quote, put it in there and go back and take surprises in page 110. It's important to me that we get the academic references in this. We're making these videos as academics, so we want to be able to use this new medium but do the traditional thing of quoting. So let's change our color to something darker. We'll get to there in a second. Put on a shadow and lift it up a little bit. Not sure where we're going to put this yet, but at least we have it there. And change the size, and of course change the wrap so that, say 0.5, so that it doesn't take up so much room. And then they have to bring it down in Y. All right. But it's Dutton's book that we want to put in here as well. Where did it throw this? By the way, there it is. That's that one. By the way, you don't have to drag this down if you don't want to, because this is on track 12, you can see over here. What you can do while it's highlighted is you can go into channel and change it from here, or type in the channel that you want. So I'm going to put it up there in track 9. Now for the book cover that I want to put in, I want Dutton's book, which we had a couple different versions of, and I'm going to put this version in now of Dutton's book as an image. And I want, of course, the same transform. So I'm going to add a transform to this by going in and putting in a transform layer, but I want it to have the same properties as this one. So how do we do that? Well, I select this and I select this, and then there's two ways to do it. One is to change the one, let's just go this way and then this way. Take this one and find our scale, for example, and go copy to selected. And that worked. Also go and copy this to selected. As you can see now, it worked. Every parameter that you want can be copied to selected. And same thing with this, copy to selected, and it does exactly that. It copies those things to the selected transform. That's a good thing. There's another way to do it, and that is, and let me bring in another image from here somewhere. I'll drag this one in here. So another way to do it is to take the image that you want and add your transform. And if you want the same settings as this one here, then you would select this and select this, and whatever settings you want, you can hover over it and put in Alt hover over it and put in Alt Enter. And the same thing here, Alt Enter. And I hope this is working like I want it to. Alt Enter. And when we get over here, oh, it didn't do it. So let me see again. If I hit Alt, if I'm on here and I select, do I have to come in here and then say Alt Enter? Let's try that. Click on it and hit Alt Enter. Click on it and hit Alt Enter. Click on it and hit Alt Enter. And it's still not working. Not only isn't it working, but nothing is working here for some reason. And why is that? Because it looks like the transform 19, transform 20. If I do this and I come over here and I say I want to copy this, Alt Enter. No, it didn't do it. All right, hold on a second. So it appears that this Alt Enter technique is not working for these particular translation units. Maybe the other things would work. I mean, the alpha, for example, might work. We can try that. I can select this, and then I can change this alpha to 0.61 and then hit Alt Enter and then come over to this one. And yeah, it works for the alpha, for the opacities, which is lovely, but doesn't help us. Doesn't help us for what we're trying to do with the positions. The positions, however, will work if you do copy to selected. So here I can say that I like the position of this, and or the scale, for example, of this, and I want to put it in this one here. So I can select this and then select this, come over here. Actually, I can keep the cursor anywhere I want to. This is the one that's active here, but this has been selected. See, so I select this and I select the one that's active with shift click, and then this scale I can say copy to selected, and then this scale I can say copy to selected, and lo and behold, it works. It puts it there. The same thing with the alpha over. This has an alpha over, and I can shift, rather right click and do copy to selected, and then the alpha over is copied. It's just the Alt E doesn't work for the location of it. All right, that's the limitation. Now this obviously doesn't look good sitting there, and so I really don't want that scale because it's icky. Oops, I'm on the select the wrong one, selecting. Ooh, shouldn't have done that. Control Z. Be careful, know where you are, what you're working with. But this scale right there, this actually should go underneath, to tell you the truth. And maybe for that we don't actually need a transform on it. Let's see. Oh, it erased all the strip instead of just the transform. But transform's good to have. Let's see if I bring this. It's kind of stuck to that thing there. And if I'm in my transform and I scale it and I move it, then it's still on top instead of being under. So we probably do want to just get rid of that strip. And as for this one here, it's no longer an alpha blend, it's a replace, and that works that way. But at least we're finding ways to speed up the workflow so you don't have to type in the numbers. Okay, so here's a case where I want to add two different books, one on top of the other, and I want a background image to illustrate this section. The background image I want has to do with the brain, so I'm going to look on my Videvo and I'm going to go back to only free clips, and I'm going to search for brain and see if there's anything that comes up with. Got a brain there, that's pretty cool. Artificial intelligence neural network. Artificial intelligence brain. It's kind of cool. Glowing neurons, virtual neurons. Although that doesn't seem to be free. This is the only one that seems to be free. So, yeah, not so cool. Let me to mind, see what that comes up with. Mind. I somehow got to music and didn't want to. Mind, is that all that it's going to give me? Motion graphics. Filters, only free clips. Looks like that's the only one that it's got on this site. And what about mind, what else can you use? Mind, brain, thought. So there's not that much stuff in terms of free stuff. Pandemic, oh great, that's there. Maybe then if it's not, these are the free ones here. We use our filter and go backgrounds and go only free clips. There's 609 clips. Can something come up with this that's free that we can use as a background for this? Music, interesting. Not a disco. So I think the one that I'm going to use is this book rotating. I like that. So I'm going to download this and show it in folder and change its name to books moving.move, and I will move this, cut it from here and bring it into my folder here and paste it. And let's see, does Blender take an MOV file? Books move, yes, books moving, it should do. Bring that in. There it is. It seems to be a bit long. Where did it show up? Oh, there it is. It came in on the right track for the first time. All right, it's a bit big. And let's see then.
Asimov, it explains why, if we are going to envision sustainability.
All right, so I do want to change. No, that's fine. I need to now to get these books of Asimov and Pinker that he talks about, I need to give them transforms. And I want to see if I can do stack transforms. So I'm going to add a effect strip transform. I don't know who's affecting who. So wait a minute. Let me Control Z out of this. This one here is going to have a transform. But what if I selected both of them? No, would that do that? Interesting thought. So if I add a transform layer to this, and I grab one of them and change its position and scale, no, I'd have to have two transforms because, so that's the azimuth. So I have to add a transform for this one too. But I want to have it become the same size. Let me move this over for a second. Oh boy, they're like linked for some reason. Huh. All right, that was a mistake to do. So let's do them separately and then move them. So the first thing to do is take this one and give it a transform, and then change its scale to make it bookish. And there's my scale, and all the position is going to be independent. I also want it to be an alpha over, right? And maybe it should also be scaled a little bit, change a little bit more in X so that it looks more like a book. Once you've determined that that is the way you want it, then I can put a transform to this one. And here's what we did last time. You select this, then shift select this one. I'll move my cursor over this to see what happens, but I'm using the values from the one with the white border around it. And I can take my scale and do copy to selected, and my scale and copy to selected, and my alpha over and copy to selected, and there it works. So now I've got these, but now I want to bring this, oops, by clicking on G, I want to lift it up and bring it there. But they're right on top of each other, so this one then I have to move by hitting its transform and moving the position over. All right. And if I want to make it a little more fancy, I can change the rotation because there's this angle. Do the same thing with this one here, but again, I can click on the transform here, or rather click on this, then shift click on this. This is the active one I'm using, and I can take the rotation and say copy to selected, and then they both have that same rotation. And if I think that there's something wrong with the rotation, it's not enough, I can continue to do the rotation, then shift click copy to selected, and then they both work that way. Same thing if I think the transformation here is a little too small. Because I've got these both selected, I can scale up in X and scale in Y. And say that's what I want for the other one as well. So then I can right click, copy to selected, yeah. And that's how you would do this. And then you can even move the position, but then you have to come down to this one to move its position a little bit more. All right, so now the question is, how long should it last on the screen?
And echoes Isaac Asimov and explains why, if
so
the work of neuroscientist
Steven Pinker comes in there. I should make a mark there for that. Steven is right there. Hit the M key. I've got a mark. Go to the marker and rename the marker and say Steven Pinker. And now I know where that's coming up. Now move this over to there and move this over to there. Whoops. Make sure that you're not selecting anything in there, and let's see how far.
Steven Pinker, and echoes Isaac Asimov and explains why, if we are going to envision sustainability.
Let's give them then right there, see if that works.
Work of neuroscientist Steven Pinker and echoes
Actually, it came in a little late. So let me select both of these. Oops, that's always the problem. You have to make sure you only select the center of it so that you can move it over, so that it lead in a bit.
Neuroscientist Steven Pinker and echoes Isaac Asimov and explains why.
And then I want the image here to come in earlier as well. Move this marker. Then my marker's there, it's easy to see. Then I can bring that in and bring this back. Whoops. It's a bit big. Didn't work. There.
The work of neuroscientist Steven Pinker and echoes Isaac.
And of course a transition would be nicer to have in here. So select this, and add a transition, a crossfade, and then make that crossfade a little bigger.
Scientist Steven Pinker and echoes Isaac Asimov.
And since we have a crossfade there, we're going to need a crossfade in here. Here again, you can come in and select one of these transforms and select the other and work within the other and start with an alpha over. So I'm going to select this and then select this, and then start with making a keyframe here. Start with a 0 and then 0, enter, and copy to selected, and then move your cursor to where this fade becomes opaque. There we are. And then take your alphas and change it to full on 1, but then copy to selected and the other will appear as well.
Neuroscientist Steven Pinker and
for some reason using an opacity in a transform doesn't seem to do a darn thing. Oh, why? Because I didn't set it as a keyframe. That's why. Once again, change this to 0 for this one, hit enter, and then shift select and go copy to selected. Now you have to hit I. It has to turn yellow. That sets a keyframe. Then move over here to where the background becomes opaque and change it to 1, hit enter, and then hit I, and then you've got a copy to selected. But it doesn't seem to have taken the other and changed the value. Isn't that interesting? So let me see what's the matter here. You go back here and you say copy to selected, and then you find the next keyframe. Where can we find the next keyframe? There it is. This is a little jump to keyframe, and here jump to keyframe, and then right click copy to selected, and it should work now. Funny, that one here is always having problems. Well, what can I say? We'll have to go back to the beginning of this. It just, I guess the keyframes don't translate that way. And we'll have to hit 0 there and then jump to the next keyframe. But of course there is no keyframe on that, so I've got to go up here, jump to the next keyframe. Nothing happened. There it goes. Jump to the next keyframe, go back to here and put in 1 and make it a keyframe. Did I have another keyframe there? No, I didn't select it as a keyframe. Oh lordy. So go up here, go back to the keyframe. Now come here, change this to 0, and then set it with I as a keyframe.
Scientist Steven Pinker and echoes Isaac Asimov and explains why, if we are going to envision sustainability, we need.
And make sure those numbers line up as well.
envision sustainability, we need fiction more than ever. He says, quote,
So yes, there's ways to copy the attributes, but it doesn't look like it does uniform copying, and keyframes don't seem to work. But I think that that's very useful information for you. Okay.